Sunday, January 25, 2026. If you are listening to this, you need to understand that the rules of engagement in Ukraine, they haven't just changed. They are effectively being erased. We have breaking investigations coming out of the Times and Ukrainian intelligence today that confirm Vladimir Putin has officially escalated the conflict beyond conventional warfare. We are facing a lethal chemical weapon threat that is no longer sporadic. It is systematic. Russian forces have hit a record 767 chemical strikes in just the last month. The red lines, they're not just being crossed, they're being gassed out of existence. Before we get into the terrifying reality of what's happening on the ground, if you support Ukraine and want the truth about what is happening on the front lines, you need to take action. Subscribe to Defense Reports, your go-to source for timely, in-depth military and defense reports. I'm Alex. Join me with Aria in the latest podcast by Defense Report for a sharp, no-nonsense breakdowns of the latest in global defense news, military technology, and strategic developments. And today, we're going to cover the systematic normalization of chemical warfare in Ukraine. Specifically, we are looking at the use of what experts are calling mass-breaking agents, like chloropicrin, to break the military stalemate. We have a massive stack of reports to get through today. We're going to be parsing a seminal paper on what's called the dead end paradox, looking at that brand new data from the Times investigation released just hours ago, and digging into some declassified intelligence that paints a very, very grim picture. The mission for this deep dive is actually quite simple. We need to understand why conventional warfare has shifted into toxic warfare and why it is happening right now. And I have to warn you, the research we're covering today it's startling. We are going to break down this dead-end paradox, which basically explains why experts believe Russia sees chemical weapons as the only way out of the current trench stalemate.
And we're going to look at the tactical innovation driving this. Because it's not just old-school artillery anymore. We're talking about kamikaze drones delivering gas directly into bunkers. And a specific chemical agent, one resurrected from World War I, that is back on the battlefield for one specific, horrific purpose: to force soldiers to rip off their gas masks.
Plus, we're going to look at the Aleppo model prediction for the rest of 2026. If the intelligence is right, this chemical escalation might just be the prelude to a terrifying new phase of urban warfare in cities like Kharkiv. But first, we have to look at the sheer scale of this. We're calling this segment the surge. You know, usually when we talk about chemical weapons in modern news, we're talking about isolated incidents, a factory leak or a rogue event. But the data, the Times and the Ukrainian RCBZ drop today, tells a completely different story.
It really does. Staggering is, I think, the only word for it. We are looking at 767 chemical attacks in the last month alone.
767.
And if we look back just a little bit, February 2025 saw 844 attacks. January 2025 had 740. When you zoom out and look at the total recorded chemical incidents since the full-scale invasion began, we are sitting at over 7,730 cases.
7,730. That is a massive number. It feels like we've moved past the point of plausible deniability into something else entirely.
Absolutely. And the shape of the data is what is so concerning. This isn't a flat line. It's an exponential surge. If you go back to late 2024, say November, the numbers were much lower, around 166 attacks a month.
Wow.
So what we are seeing now in 2026 is a massive deliberate spike. When you see a jump like that from the low hundreds to the 800s, it signals that this isn't rogue commanders going off script. This is doctrine.
It's a supply chain.
It's a supply chain. This is orders coming from the top.
It's institutionalized. And it's so crucial we remember that behind every one of those 7,730 statistics is a human being defending their home. I was reading the account of Sergeant Heike, a medic with the 80th Air Assault Brigade. She was treating soldiers poisoned near Klishivka, and her description, it's absolute nightmare fuel.
It's the invisibility of it that struck me.
Exactly. She said the victims had no visible wounds, no shrapnel, no bullet holes, no blood, but they were suffering from uncontrollable tears, salivation, vision loss, and suffocation. One soldier died right there in her care with absolutely no external injuries, just stopped breathing.
That is the signature of these weapons. It's the invisible killer.
Yep.
We have similar accounts from the 65th Mechanized Brigade in Robotyne. They aren't just seeing this once a month. They are reporting daily gas attacks from drones.
Daily.
It adds this layer of psychological torture to the physical warfare.
Yeah.
You're in French, you hear the buzz of a drone, and you don't know if it's going to drop an explosive that you can hide from or something that will seep into the earth and make you cough until your lungs burn.
Let's unpack exactly what is making them cough, because the chemistry here is specific and malicious. The reports keep using this term mask breaker. Now, one of the main agents mentioned is chloropicrin. To the average person, that sounds like it could be a pool cleaner or an industrial solvent, but I gather it is definitely not that.
Far from it. Chloropicrin, Uh, Chemically, acetylene is a Schedule III substance under the Chemical Weapons Convention. It has a very dark history. It actually made its debut in World War I. It was also used by Soviet troops in Tbilisi, Georgia, back in 1989 to crush demonstrations.
So the Russian military has a long institutional memory with this chemical.
A very long one.
So why bring back something from World War I? Usually military tech moves forward, hypersonic missiles, stealth jets. Why go back to 1914 chemistry?
That's where the mask breaker tactic comes in. It's a solution to a very modern problem. You see, modern gas masks are very good at filtering out nerve agents or particulates. But chloropicrin is an oily liquid with a very heavy vapor density, about 5.7.
Okay, hold on. Explain vapor density to us. What does that mean practically for a soldier in a trench?
Think of it like dry ice fog, but much, much heavier. Air has a vapor density of 1. Chloroquine is almost 6 times heavier. So when a drone drops a grenade of this stuff, it doesn't just float away on the breeze. It sinks. It acts almost like water.
Oh, wow.
It crawls down into the trenches, it seeps into the dugouts, and it settles in the deep bunkers where Ukrainian soldiers are taking cover from artillery.
So the very places that are safe from bombs are the most dangerous places for this gas.
Exactly. It finds you where you are hiding. But here is the kicker, and this is why it's called a mask breaker. It penetrates the standard charcoal filters found in many older or standard issue gas masks. It's a severe irritant that causes immediate, violent vomiting and respiratory distress.
Okay, I think I see where this is going.
Picture the scenario. You're a soldier. You detect gas. You follow your training, you put on your mask, but the chloropicrin gets through, or it acts so fast that you start vomiting. You cannot vomit inside a tight-fitting gas mask. You'll aspirate the vomit and choke to death.
So what's your only option?
You have to take the mask off.
You rip it off.
You rip the mask off to breathe or vomit. And the moment you do that, you're exposed. Maybe you're exposed to a lethal dose of the chloropicrin itself. Or, in some really horrific scenarios we're hearing about, the chloropicrin is mixed with other lethal agents that the mask would have stopped.
But because you had to take it off,
Now you're defenseless against that secondary agent.
it's a trap. It's a biological hacking of the soldier's survival instinct. The gas isn't just there to kill you, it's there to force you to make yourself vulnerable.
Precisely. And if the gas doesn't kill you, the artillery does. The Russian 18th Naval Infantry Brigade actually bragged about this. They used the gas to smoke Ukrainian troops out of their dugouts.
So they run out into the open to escape the fumes.
And that's where the snipers and machine guns are waiting.
We actually have forensic evidence backing up just how lethal this cocktail is, right? The Morgan Dnipro reported on this.
They did. Pathologists were examining bodies of soldiers with no external injuries, no blast marks, no bullets, but they found rings of foam around their mouths.
Rings of foam, that sounds incredibly specific.
It is. I was reading an analysis by toxicologist Alistair Hay about this.
Huh.
He pointed out that carbon monoxide poisoning, which can happen in bunkers after explosions, doesn't cause foaming.
Okay.
Foaming indicates a lung-damaging irritant was mixed in. It causes pulmonary edema. Basically, the lungs fill with fluid. The soldier drowns from the inside. Finding that foam on a soldier with no other wounds suggests a sophisticated, lethal cocktail designed specifically to kill defenders in fortified bunkers.
That leads us directly into how they are getting this stuff into the bunkers, because
Yeah.
you mentioned it's not just artillery shelling anymore. We are seeing a shift in delivery systems that feels very 2026.
We are. It's part of what military analysts call the transparent battlefield. In modern war, especially in Ukraine, everything is watched. If you roll up a big artillery piece to fire gas shells, you get spotted by a Ukrainian drone and blown up within minutes. So conventional large-scale maneuvers are failing.
So they've adapted.
Russia has adapted by moving to micro-tactical chemical strikes using drones.
It's the drone warfare revolution meeting chemical warfare.
It is. They are using kamikaze drones with chemical payloads. We're seeing a lot of usage of K-51 and Argivon grenade stats suggest about 40% of cases involve these.
And these are essentially tear gas grenades.
Essentially, yes, but dropped with precision right into a dugout entrance. A drone operator can hover 3 feet above a trench, look through a camera, and drop the gas right into the ventilation shaft or the doorway.
It's terrifyingly personal precision. I want to pause on the tear gas aspect for a second, though, because I can hear some listeners asking, wait, police use tear gas or CS gas for riot control all the time. Why is it a war crime in Ukraine?
That is a critical distinction to make, and it's one that Russian propaganda, tries to blur. Under the Chemical Weapons Convention, riot control agents, or RCAs, are strictly banned in warfare.
Why the double standard? If it's okay for a protest in Paris, why not a trench in Robotine?
Two main reasons. First is the risk of escalation. In the chaos of a battlefield, if you see a cloud of gas, you don't know if it's tear gas or sarin nerve agent. You assume the worst.
Right.
A commander might panic and retaliate with their own weapons of mass destruction. Maybe biological, maybe even tactical nuclear weapons.
Right.
RCAs are banned to prevent that slide into total catastrophe.
And the second reason?
The intent. Domestic riot control is a law enforcement activity to disperse a crowd and restore order, theoretically with non-lethal intent. In Ukraine, Russia is using it as a method of warfare to incapacitate and kill soldiers in conjunction with conventional weapons. As we discussed, they flesh them out to shoot them.
So it's not non-lethal anymore.
It transforms a non-lethal agent into a component of a lethal system. That is a clear, flagrant violation of international law.
So they are using these banned tactics, risking international condemnation. Why now? This brings us to the core of our deep dive, the dead-end paradox. What is driving this shift in strategy?
It comes down to desperation born of stagnation. The dead-end paradox report highlights that the Kremlin is stuck in a positional deadlock. The front lines are heavily fortified. We were talking about deep trenches, minefields, and constant surveillance.
Right, the trench warfare we've been seeing for months.
Exactly, and conventional infantry assaults, sending waves of men and tanks, are incredibly costly. We've seen the footage. Fields of destroyed armored vehicles.
Yeah.
Russia has lost thousands of tanks and tens of thousands of men trying to take mere meters of ground. They physically cannot break the lines with conventional means anymore. So Putin faces a dilemma. He can stop the war, which risks his regime, because he promised victory and has sacrificed so much for it. Or he can escalate the destruction to find a new way to win.
He's painted himself into a corner.
And he has chosen escalation. Chemical weapons are viewed as the bridge. They are the bridge between conventional attrition, which isn't working fast enough, and nuclear weapons, which are too risky politically.
Too much of a red line for NATO.
Exactly. They would invite immediate NATO intervention. Chemicals offer a way to clear those trenches without nuking them and without losing another 10,000 men in a meat wave assault.
It's a terrifying logic. If I can't shoot you out, I'll smoke you out. But surely they know the world is watching. How do they justify this?
They use a technique called fake mirroring. It's classic disinformation. Russia aggressively denies these attacks, but simultaneously they accuse Ukraine and the U.S. of preparing chemical provocations.
I've seen those headlines. Claims about Ukrainian chemical labs in Avdiivka or secret American plots.
Exactly. They claim Ukraine is doing it to muddy the waters. It distracts the media and creates doubt. Oh, both sides are accusing each other, so who knows the truth? That's the reaction they want.
But the evidence is clear.
Despite this obstruction, the OPCW and EU intelligence have been firm. They have confirmed that chemical use is now standard practice for Russian troops. It's not an accident. It's the new normal.
So if this is the new normal in January 2026, what does the rest of the year look like? You mentioned the Aleppo model in the intro. That sounds ominous.
That is the fear. If you look at how Russia fought in Syria, specifically in Aleppo, they didn't just fight soldiers in fields. They used chemical weapons to break the siege of the city. They used them in urban centers to create panic and force the population and defenders to flee.
Because you can't hide from gas in a basement.
Exactly. In a city, the basement is your shelter from bombs. But gas sinks. It turns the shelter into a tomb. The prediction is that 2026 could see this tactic applied to major Ukrainian cities, like Kharkiv.
If they can't take the city with tanks?
They might try to depopulate it with gas.
Using gas to clear a major European city. That is a chilling thought. It takes us back to the darkest days of the 20th century.
It does. And there's another layer to this outlook. The nuclear-chemical nexus. We know Russia is running low on armored vehicles. Confirmed losses are exceeding 12,500 units.
Wow.
As their ability to project power with tanks diminishes, they have to compensate. Analysts fear they may start integrating chemical weapons with tactical nuclear signaling.
What does that look like practically?
Basically creating contaminated no-man's lands, using persistent chemical agents to poison swaths of territory so that Ukraine simply cannot cross or inhabit them. It freezes the lines.
It fits with the political context, too. We saw that ISW report from late 2025 about Putin's rhetoric. He's talking about internal and external threats and putting Russia on a permanent wartime footing.
Yes. This chemical escalation isn't an isolated tactical choice. It's part of a broader total war mindset. The Kremlin is signaling that there are no limits to what they will do to avoid defeat. They are stripping away the rules of war one by one.
Okay, let's just unpack this. We aren't just seeing random war crimes here. We are seeing a strategic shift. We are seeing a military superpower, frustrated by a stalemate, reaching into the darkest parts of its arsenal to find a way to win. They're using WWI chemicals with 21st century drone tech to bypass modern defenses.
And that brings us to the most provocative thought of all. We have to look at the precedent this sets. If the international response to this remains what it has been, mostly sanctions and strong words, and if this dead end on the battlefield persists, we might be witnessing the complete normalization of chemical weapons in modern warfare.
We are undoing 100 years of international norms.
We are. The ban on chemical weapons is one of the few things the world actually agreed on after World War I. If that taboo is broken in Ukraine, and it works, and there are no severe consequences, then the question we have to ask is, what happens when this tactic spreads? Why wouldn't it be used in the next conflict? Why wouldn't it be used by other regimes? We are opening a Pandora's box that we might not be able to close.
That is a terrifying reality to consider, but it's one we have to face. The support for Ukraine isn't just about territory anymore. It's about holding the line against a world where chemical warfare becomes just another tool in the box. You've been listening to Defense Report by Alex and Aria, where we analyze the latest in military strategy, global defense, and advanced weaponry. If you want to stay ahead of these developments and support the truth, subscribe to Defense Reports, your go-to source for timely, in-depth military and defense reports. We'll catch you next time.